Hi friends, welcome back to Sound Living with Madi. Today we are joined by one of my good friends, Amber. We grew up playing soccer together. Since then, she has traveled all over the world. She has coached soccer in India. She has founded a global company. And today we really get into compassionate leadership, what leaders can be doing to help their teams out. Amber is an entrepreneur, and she also coaches and develops talent and leadership for global companies. So we have a lot of amazing nuggets, amazing takeaways. I have Dad here with me today for this episode. Henry, our CEO, he was our soccer coach growing up. So it was very cool, amazing conversation, lots of great takeaways. So let's get into it.
This is a Soaak podcast.
Hey, I'm Madi, and this is Sound Living, a space for real conversations about intentional living, wellness, and personal growth. Here, we dive into practical tools, mindset shifts, and the little changes that make a big impact. Whether you're looking to create balance, build better habits, or just feel more in tune with yourself, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. Amber, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you again.
It's been a while,
It's been just a little bit of time.
For people listening, Amber and I played on a soccer team together growing up. And the reason that my dad is here today, we have Henry joining us, is because he was our soccer coach. And so it's been about, 15-ish years since we've...
It's a big reunion for us.
It's a big reunion. And I'm so happy to reconnect. Amber has lived all over the world. She's
Before
traveling
we go by that too much, I wasn't just the coach. We won first place 2 or 3 seasons.
Several seasons in a row, not just once, but
yes,
many seasons.
Yes. So we play to win here at Soaak.
That's right. Yeah.
And Amber's won all of her life, like you were saying. She's been through so
gosh.
many great things.
So impressive. Yeah. Amber has been all over the world, and we'll get into it more in the interview. But just really excited to have you here today.
I'm so grateful. This is amazing.
Okay, so why don't we start by you kind of sharing with us a little bit about the company that you founded, that you're running right now, the Pathwayz Group.
Yeah, so the Pathwayz Group is we're a global and leadership development company. And so we work specifically with tech companies on improving skills like communication, performance feedback, emotional intelligence, delegation, skills like that through workshops, coaching, and online learning.
That's so important. And, we work in the tech space, so we definitely understand the value.
Well, I love this podcast because it's tech, but it's also fits in with what we teach in body, mind, and spirit. So you've been a soccer coach yourself. You coached, and that's a whole story within itself. A lot of first that you've done. So that's the body part. The mind part is you relating to business now on a global scale. You've got a big global event coming up. We'll talk about that a little bit. And I love the mind part where you can actually teach our listeners how to effectively communicate to their people, because communication is so important, whether it's in a business or to your spouse or to your significant other, your friends, the whole 9 yards. So the knowledge you have in your head right now, guys, we're going to try to get out and give you a lesson that you would have to fly halfway across the world to learn. We're going to get it here this morning. So again, from me to you, thank you so much for being here.
I love it. Yes, I did. I followed in Henry's footsteps and became a coach for a little bit of time, and I love it.
So this is actually a really cool story, and this is something that you wrote a book about too. Would you mind just taking a few minutes to kind of share with all of our listeners your time in India and what you did there?
Yeah. So I started my career in corporate HR. So I was doing talent development, human resources there, and had an opportunity, quit my job in corporate America and went to India and became the only American, only female, only Christian, only blonde academy football coach for the Paris Saint-Germain Football Academy. And so
now this is football for the
football.
Americans. This
soccer.
is soccer.
Yeah, this is
football.
soccer. There's no touchdowns. It's football.
Only goals.
Only goals.
Awesome.
It was amazing. I worked with about 13 different teams, mostly boys with a few girls. Also worked with a team of coaches. We had about a dozen coaches as well. ages 6 to about 16. And so
Oh my gosh.
I
Did they accept you being a white woman coaching an all Indian men's team? I mean, was that tough?
The levels of scandal was
Oh,
it
no,
was
I
huge.
bet. I could only imagine.
Huge. I mean, I'm coaching in shorts, so exposing the bottom of the leg, and so
Which they don't allow women to do in India.
which times are changing a bit. This was about 10 years ago, but especially then, it was pretty scandalous. And to be white, to be blonde, to be a Christian coaching Hindu, Muslim. I mean, it was layers. And then on top of that, because I just really felt like adding more to the scandal of it.
You didn't have enough.
There wasn't enough. I would coach, and there would be people genuinely lining the fence to take pictures and watch.
Oh my gosh.
But part of that was also the style of coaching was different. So whenever I went there, it was very much stand in a line, kick a ball, wait for instruction.
Right.
Command, obey, dynamic.
For
and
sure.
So,
which a lot of Europe is as well. India and Europe is a lot like that.
Very, very much so. And so the result is the players, they learned how to kick a ball perfectly. And so truly, true story, we went to a match and I saw the player kick a ball perfectly. And then before the play was over, they turned to the coach, to the sideline for more direction and feedback, because it's a task-based rather than why.
I have completed my task. What do I do next?
What do I do next, right? Yeah. And so the great thing about Indian football is that dedication to learning that skill and perfecting that skill. And there's so much talent and hunger and drive there.
Oh, for sure.
And so the science of the sport was a very strong foundation. Where we worked out was the creativity and the art side of the sport. And it is both. Yeah. And
how do you ad lib a little after that? Like, what do you do after you make that perfect kick? Think on your own. What would you do next? What questions do you have to ask yourself to do next? I would imagine.
Yeah. And so the way that I would design the activities was different. So rather than stand in line, kick a ball, wait for instruction, I'd say in order to kick a ball, I want you to kick a ball to knock down those 3 cones, because in order to do that, you're going to have to kick with power and precision. Right. Now, how are you going to kick the ball?
Very good.
So as a result, you'd have some people kick with the infoot, some people kick with the laces, and say, well, Miss Amber, which is the right answer? There's only one. No, there's multiple answers here. Right. You have to discover what that means.
And I would imagine everything you learned from there, you moved into your company that you founded. But before we get there, I'm curious to know, how did you, with all the scandalous talks probably behind your back about you being this white blonde girl in India, how did you stay? Like through all that, was your passion greater than the problem that was coming your way? Or how did you, what mental resilience did you have to stay there?
Yeah. I think first off, ignorance was really on my side.
Ready, fire, aim.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go coach soccer. Right. Everything that I was signing up for, I didn't realize until I was there.
Of course. Like every endeavor.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever I arrived, there had been 5 other coaches leave unfavorably, international coaches that had left unfavorably.
Oh, no.
And all different reasons, but the long and short of it was not truly respecting the beauty of the Indian culture. And so
they wanted to come in and change it, but you respected it, worked with it.
We're going to teach you the French way to play football, the Swedish way to play football, American football is a touchdown, so we definitely couldn't do that.
And the ball looks different.
Exactly. And so it's so easy to talk about, yes, there were challenges. There also was amazing support and encouragement. And so we worked together to discover what Indian football was going to be. You have the same foundation, but what are the strengths of the Indian culture that we can use to have that competitive advantage and that cultural competitive advantage? And so my whole goal wasn't to stay for years and years. It was to help set that track and set that foundation so that then the Indian coaches could take it and run. And I actually just went back to India for the first time in about a decade. And several of those coaches now have their own sports academies, their own
Are you serious?
associations. and they're continuing that legacy to help India become a great sports nation. So that's not on me. That's, them for taking that forward. Right. And I believe there's great promise with that. So yeah.
That is so cool. Yeah. So that rolled into your company, I bet.
Yeah, I love that story. I love hearing that. Yeah. So how did you go from coaching soccer, football in India to founding your company, the Pathwayz Group?
Yeah. So after spending time in India, I worked with a couple other academies in other parts of Asia. So it was working with European academies that were establishing in Asia. Mm-hmm. I came back to the US for a time, became HR director for a national education leadership company, which is still talent development. So HR is talent development, soccer is talent development, education is talent development. And with all three of those industries, one is corporate training, one is athletic training, and one is academic training. I enjoyed it. It was a dream job I was at, but my real heart and passion was to help global teams in these topics of communication and leadership. Wow. And so I left a dream company, dream position, dream boss, and I started this adventure of the Pathwayz Group. And what I loved was being able to take all three of those types of designs of designing learning. And we don't just call it instructional design, it's behavioral design. Right. We don't want you to just know it. We want to help you create habits and behaviors and create an experience. I believe that learning and development, it's not one step. It is a pathway that you walk on. Right. It's a journey that you walk on. And so it's not just a one-time listen to someone for an hour. It's a continuous journey.
Right. Yeah. So the reason I stepped in here this morning, and thank you for having me on, I said I wasn't going to talk a lot, but I can't help it.
We both knew. No, all three of us knew.
So from a business standpoint, and then I'll shut up, I promise.
No,
for a second.
It's great. I love having you in the conversation.
From a business standpoint, I love what you're doing because effective communication or lack thereof has been the rise and fall of most businesses. You could really name anything, whether it's politics or business or whatever. If you've got a little wrench in the communication pipeline, it can sink a ship or it can make one sail around the world. So how do we make the ship sail around the world? Like, give us maybe your top three things that you look at for truly effective communication. And I know it's a process. I know this is a year-long thing that I'm asking you to try to give me your top three, but I'm curious, and I want our audience to hear, because we've got a lot of entrepreneurs in our demo and all of that. So what's like the three top things that you would say, if you could master these three things, your odds of success are going to go up?
Yeah, I love that question. So the number one mistake that I see in communication is assuming that it's happening or thinking that it's happening.
Yeah.
So I said that, yes, but did you communicate? Like, was there an understanding? Right. I sent the email. Okay, well, so communication, it's not just projecting. We talk about how to get a message out in a noisy world. I don't think we talk enough about how to listen in a distracting world. And
I love that. Say that one more time. I love that.
We talk a lot about how to get a message heard in a noisy world. We don't talk enough about how to listen in a distracting world.
Oh, wow.
And that's, so one of the biggest, I guess that's not a key to success, but challenges to address.
No, that is,
is not assume that you're communicating. I have to have validation, confirmation. Right. So that's where we talk
back in the olden days, I used to send letters certified return receipt. That meant it's certified, it's going to get there. The post office guaranteed it was going to get there. And I would get a return receipt, which means the recipient had to sign for it. But today I'm hearing you say, we send out emails, we do blast, we do whatever, and we don't know if it got there. Like, you think it got there, and then when the thing's not done that you asked them to do through the email, then you're blaming them when it was really your fault for not saying, where's my return receipt? Like, at least confirm you got it and you understand. And so if we take that second to verify that and validate that and confirm it, then that's getting over that hump.
Exactly.
Makes so much sense.
And I would imagine too that there's instances where people they see the email, they read the email, but they don't understand it. And part of communication is the person trying to communicate. It's more about than just projecting the information, like what you said.
Exactly.
So what can someone do who maybe they are used to just sending an email out and saying, okay, well, that's on them for understanding it or not? What are some like communication tactics that someone could implement to kind of ensure that the recipient is really understanding what they say, whether that's through email or text or, a verbal conversation?
Well, just like what Henry said, just blasting, that is one way. It has to be a loop.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to have a system of a loop. So it doesn't have to be complex. It could be as simple as, this is what we said in the meeting. Repeat that back.
Yeah.
We're going to write that down somewhere. What does that mean?
Right.
And so very simple. Hey, we had a conversation once about this. I'm going to schedule a follow-up meeting about this right now, not, 3 months from now. We're going to schedule this next week. And so there has to be some sort of system, some sort of process within that relationship. So there is a loop.
People will never do what you expect, but they will always do what you inspect.
Yes, exactly. And I find that a lot of unmet expectations are due to a lack of communicated expectations.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
They weren't met because they weren't communicated or they weren't clearly understood.
Right.
We talk about, one of my favorite books growing up was Amelia Bedelia.
Oh
right?
my gosh.
The
Love Amelia
homeowner-
Bedelia.
Right? But it's true. Like, this is what happens. And I see this happen in meetings all the time. I see it happen in my own life, right?
Yeah.
With me. And for those who don't, the story of Amelia Bedelia is a really hardworking, enthusiastic, capable, skilled person that in the first book, she's a housemaid. So she goes in, she gets clear expectations. By the end of the day, you're expected to dust the furniture, put out the lights, do all these things. And so she goes to work and she throws dust all over the furniture and she cuts up the drapes and she puts out the light and she does the task, but not in the way that it was intended.
Yeah.
And so the homeowners come back, their house is in disarray. Amelia Bedelia's tried her best. She's been working all day. And we see this happen in teams all the time.
Right.
And that's
such a great example.
Yeah,
I can think of 100 things that's happened just last week that would follow that track.
It follows.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, there are times I am Amelia Bedelia. I thought this is what you meant and this is what I did. And
the intention is so pure.
Yeah. And, there's this, and I'll go one step deeper. There's the fancy communication term for it is the fundamental attribution error, which is really just a fancy way of saying many times we judge other people by their outcomes, their outputs, where we judge ourselves by our expectations. And it's so powerful. We see this whenever I was driving down the street today, right? Someone cuts me off. They're an inconsiderate driver. They're a hazard. They need to be
That was
taken off
Madi.
the
She
road.
was running late.
Yeah.
I'll apologize for that right now.
It could have been.
But if I do that, I'm not thinking, I'm a hazard to the road. I'm thinking, no, I didn't see the lane change coming.
Right.
And this is a true story. This was a couple of years ago. There was, we were working with a company and there was a person that was dreaded whenever they spoke at meetings. And people would say, Amber, whenever they speak, they are abrupt. They're abrasive. They're malicious. Like it's really, it really wasn't a good situation. And so went and talked to the person. So what's your intention whenever you speak at meetings? He said, Amber, I'm intending to be passionate. I'm trying to be persuasive.
Wow.
And so
they were taking it aggressive and abrasive and the negatives, but it was his passion coming out.
And so the intended behavior and the perceived behavior were different. Now, this was it was a cross-cultural team, but this happens all over.
Right, sure.
And so we were able to then enter into a feedback loop, a coaching conversation to help bring those two closer together. Not change, fully either, but bring that understanding.
Right.
And so, part of it is assuming that communication has taken place. And the other is that assuming positive intention or seeking understanding of what that intention is to move forward. So,
that is so cool. That's just number one. What's number two?
Yeah.
If you have a couple more. Yeah. No, that in itself, I can tell you from years of business experience, if people mastered that and became aware of that on a daily basis, not to say you're going to be 100% on day one, but if you just maintain an awareness of that and you take the responsibility for that loop, not giving it to somebody else, I think things would drastically change. In business relationships, like we said, communication is paramount in all those things.
Exactly.
So very cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a number 2?
Do I have a number 2? Yeah, assuming that it's happening, and then assuming positive intent, I think is. I think I'm going to put that as my number 2.
Yes, I love that.
There's a wonderful book called The Speed of Trust by Covey, and who's more well known for the
7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Yep.
But The Speed of Trust is also a fantastic resource.
I've not read that.
It goes through all of the time wasted because of a lack of trust, systematically, organizationally, interpersonally. And one thing that I love, we worked with a company a few months ago, we're still working on this, is trust actually comes on 2 levels. You have trust in a person's competence and trust in a person's character, right? So I may trust my sister in her character with a secret. I'm not going to trust her to run my company. Right. Yeah. I'm not going to trust her to drive my car.
But, we can edit that out if you want to.
But right, I may trust her character, but I don't trust
100%.
Obviously, she's very competent in other things.
Right.
She's very good at what she does. There are some people in my, in companies that I may trust. Hey, I know you can do your job. I don't trust you with the politics that are going on with right. I don't trust you in your character.
Right.
And I find that there is some freedom in that, because if I say, hey, I do trust your character, where I need to pinpoint and where we need to build trust is within the competence, within the skill. That is a different conversation than
100%.
Building trust. And so I find that trust can be a very big word whenever we can actually break this down to be more specific in our action steps and our behaviors to build trust up.
I love that. I love that. I remember I had have a relation, and we always say, it's my wife. We always say,
shout out Laura.
We always say, I can always assume and I can always expect the best. Like, I can always expect that you have the best intentions in what you're doing, even though I may not understand it. I know sometimes men and women's brain are different, but sometimes I'll see something come from her, and I know this is vice versa, probably more for me than her, but I'll see something coming from her and I won't understand the logic behind it, and I might get upset unless that thing kicks in that says, I really think your intentions were the best aligned for what you were doing. And if I think that, then it rests those, I respond quickly. I'm alpha male. I'm type A. Get it done. But if
Loves to win, like what we were talking about
to
earlier.
but yeah, that's why we won 3 games in a row.
Here.
Yeah. We're all really holding back right now. But instead of just jumping to conclusions and being upset, I can think she really meant the best, and she intended the best for me, and her heart is right and pure. And if I think about that and just take a deep breath and think about that, it totally changes my perception. And then, like you said, they're different conversations. But I love that. Always thinking the best.
I love that.
100%.
That is so cool.
All right,
Okay,
wait,
so
I'm going to give you my third one.
Yes.
The third one, because I'm going to can't leave it half done. I have to win with this.
You have to finish, Amber.
No, but the third one I'll say is give yourself, for anyone, but especially leaders, I reserve the right to be better tomorrow than I am today.
Yeah.
And I have to give myself grace to be better and to be smarter. And whenever we're communicating, whenever we're doing anything in leadership, you're never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You can be 1% better.
Right.
And I may look and say, well, man, I really messed up back then.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to learn from that, and I'm going to be better.
Right.
And
just like our soccer team.
Just like soccer team.
Like every day we would get better. We would kick balls better. We would, score goals better. We would do all of that. But it was 1% of the day, even though the coach demanded you know it today.
Yes.
Sometimes he had grace to grow one day at a time, one step at a time.
Well, and part of that is having someone like a coach to say, sometimes it's easy to say, oh, well, we didn't lose, we learned. Well, that statement doesn't stand on its own unless you ask, what did I learn?
What did we learn? Yeah.
You can't just say, oh, well, that was a learning experience. But what did you learn?
And how are you going to implement it tomorrow?
How are you going to, implement 100%. That tomorrow? So
100%.
Give yourself grace to be better, and then do be better.
Right.
Right.
It's kind of like
better.
Closing that feedback loop within yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great. I love that. Wow. Those are 3 very powerful statements and very powerful points that, if people just implemented that in their business or their relationship, you'll see tremendous growth there.
Yeah. 100%. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about something that is a huge hot topic. Everyone has dealt with this, especially, in the last 5 years, burnout. So, and I'm sure that this is something that you talk a lot about with your HR conferences and all of your different things that you do. But what do you think is really behind burnout?
So burnout comes from any moment that you have that heart rate go up, and you're doing that over time, over and over and over again. It's not just one thing. It is constantly carrying a heavy weight. And anytime that your heart rate goes up over time, that's where burnout comes in. And so where we look at leaders and organizations, anytime that I say, hey, I need this done right now, I didn't plan ahead. If I'm doing that over and over and over and over and over again with my team, and everything is urgent, I'm not setting my team up for success.
I don't like this topic.
I wasn't going to say anything.
No, we're a fast-moving company.
I know.
Right?
Okay, so let's break this down.
All right, let me
break this
continue.
down, because we travel at a very fast pace. And in technology, if you lose something today or over the next week, it may not be there next week.
May not be there.
But if you're driving everything every day, you're driving people in the ground.
24/7.
Yeah,
And so
100%.
We're a fast-moving company too, and we have things and we have deadlines, right? Hey, we talk about this on Monday, it needs to be done by Friday. Okay, that's clarity. Now, in that conversation, this is something we have to talk about with our team. This is important, yes. This is priority, right?
That's a good point. Good point.
This is what is urgent. And I recognize that this might fall to the back burner for this week. This might not get done. And so that does keep that consistent movement. It doesn't put my team in a panic state of, oh, I have to continue all this and do this and do this, and she's adding this and this.
So don't panic, but prioritize.
Don't panic, but prioritize. And there is power in saying, this is important. Just because it's going on the back burner doesn't mean it's not important.
Right.
And we've had things that even my team, you have a good team that bring forth great ideas. They're better at their job than you are. Or you're better at their job than you are to do their job. So that's why you hire them, right? So they come out with these amazing ideas. And that's been something that I've had to say, that is really important. That is not priority for right now, because we're not going to be able to do 17 things with excellence. We're going to do these 4 things with excellence right now.
Right.
And I want to come back to that in 2 weeks.
Right.
And so
you're setting them up for success. Like you said, you're not just damaging their will or giving them something they can't fix or do right then. You're setting them up for success, giving them those little wins and those little dopamine rushes that when you win that, you're going to be better for the next one even.
Exactly. And it also lets them know that they've been heard, right? If I say, hey, that's not priority right now, we got to keep on moving. Then they're going to stop bringing ideas. But saying, okay, this is on the docket, or this is something that is on the radar.
Right.
It is important. It's not priority for now. And so for me, a big part of managing burnout for a team from a leadership standpoint for me is communicating clear expectations so they know exactly what success looks like. And B, knowing what is priority and versus what is important. Yeah. I think we talk a lot about time management, which is important. That is a part of time, a part of burnout. Don't talk enough about not just why I call it time stewardship. We also have energy stewardship and focus stewardship. And I may spend the same amount of time on something, but the amount of energy that it takes for that activity or that task is going to be different. So I have to be a good steward of my energy and my focus as well.
I feel better.
You feel better. I saw your eyes go up. Let me know.
Well, I mean, it can be incredibly difficult in, a startup, a tech startup, you know, everything does feel urgent but it's important, and it's, it's a very responsible thing to do, to really outline, okay, this is what is urgent. This is on the back burner, but it's not off the stove.
No, we still need to get it done.
Right.
It's still,
still
moving.
I thought Madison asked me to be on this podcast.
This is an intervention.
We were going to do something, but now I understand it's a session that I never would have went to because I've got other priorities.
That's fantastic.
Nice trick. No, this is wonderful, and this is beautiful. I'm so aligned with what you're saying, and that's so true. It's amazing to me that a young woman such as yourself knows this at that depth, because normally you've got to be in your 50s to understand this, but you get it. So that's very encouraging. Probably due to my coaching.
Coaches. Yeah, we had good coaches growing up. Yeah.
No, but honestly, I mean that.
So what about for someone who is in the other seat? So they're not the leader, they're not the boss in this situation. What about for someone listening who feels like maybe their employer or their manager is putting too much on their plate, and they don't know how to have that conversation with them about, okay, what is urgent?
Question.
What do I prioritize? How can they have that conversation with their manager?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, the short answer is you do have to advocate for yourself. Yeah. So the question is how. Advocacy does depend on who you're advocating to, right? So I don't have a blanket, hey, this is how you advocate to all leaders.
Right.
You do need to look, some leaders, they are going to say, hey, this is the data. This is they may not know exactly what you're doing. So I begin that conversation with making sure they're aware, or helping them be more aware of what is actually on your plate. Now, it could be, and this is where we have an old school work versus personal life. If you have a lot going, and there are some people on my team, they have a lot on their personal life right now, I'm going to make some adjustments here, right? Yeah. So this is kind of our temporary thing here, and now we're going to adjust. Yeah. But I want to make sure that the leader understands what I'm fully carrying, right? Burnout comes from carrying all of that weight for a long period of time. And I had a very good mentor of mine time say, Amber, the temptation there is to just take time off. But time off will not heal you if the problem is how you're spending time on.
Wow.
I love that,
That's
Madison.
Good.
And so we see that, right? Oh, I'm on the verge of burnout. I need to go take a week vacation. So, we have all this pile of paperwork. We leave, we go to the beach for a week. We come back and we still have the pile of paperwork.
And it's bigger.
This hasn't really been, and so all that stress that I got rid of over 3 or 4 days, I come back and I'm equally stressed. It's just doubled.
Or doubled, yeah.
This hasn't helped. And so instead we do have to look at, the processes. And so working with your leader, making sure they're aware. B, I encourage with advocacy to come forth with possible solutions, not demands, but not, hey, I need that, but hey, these are some options. Because if we just present the problem to the leader, hey, I'm on the verge of burnout. I have a lot of work going on, and you need to fix this problem. Right. Back off. Yeah. It doesn't really, that doesn't really help. It doesn't fix the problem. And then the leader may, because they don't know, right? So they may present something that doesn't really address the actual underlying problem either. Yeah. And so come forth with, hey, this was what may be this is what could be helpful. These are some options I'm looking at. And so open it up with a conversation so that you can move forward. Yeah. So that time on is not leading to burnout.
That's great advice.
I think if it was me, I would probably go to a leader and say, look, I've got these 5 things, and identify what those things are. And affirm the leader. I understand that we need to get these things done for the pursuit and the betterment of the company, for the growth of the company. However, with the time I have to work on these, working full time, I only see that I'm going to be able to get 3 of these finished, and I'm willing to do that. And I just want you to know, if these other 2 are going to be pushed to next week, I will handle them like you've taught me, but I don't want your expectations to not be met by me only doing 3 out of the 5 that you wanted. Does that make sense? Or do you have a better suggestion for how I could handle the timing of these?
Yeah.
That's prioritizing exactly what the leader, if the leader's not doing it, you're doing it. Yeah.
But if the leader's not doing it, then you
Then
come to it as a
advocating.
solution and you're advocating.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think it's really
I love
important too for the person who has a lot on their plate. You know, we've all been in those moments where it's like, I really just can't take on one more thing right now. And you feel like you don't even have time to think about it or to sort it out, because time is, you know, that's what you're using to dedicate to solving these problems and checking these tasks off of your list. So I think it's also really important to set aside, you know, an hour and really sort through and organize. And even though you're not spending that hour, you know, checking something off your list, you're spending that hour getting really organized, getting prepared for that conversation so that it isn't one-sided, because a lot of leaders are very like, okay, you know, let's fix the problem and let's move on. But you have to be able to fully understand your problem and present it too.
And sometimes when you take like self-inventory of that, sometimes you can work it out yourself, because you've never just sat down and thought about it and put it in order and say, you know, if I get this and this and this done, these 2 things relate to that thing, and I can knock this out.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
Exactly.
100%.
So, nice. Okay, sorry.
I do want to add one more thing. So saying time off won't heal you unless, you know, if the problem is how you spend time off. You should still take time off to rest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not saying don't take time off. You should take time off to actually
100%.
intentionally rest and then be empowered whenever you are doing your work.
But it's not going to fix a problem for you.
Yeah.
You still have to do the work and figure out, you know, what's actually going wrong here and how can we fix it so it doesn't keep happening, so it doesn't keep building up, and then go to the beach.
And then, then you can actually
Go to
hang
the
out
beach
at
with a clear mind
Exactly.
and with the problem solved. So I used to tour with some of the speaking legends like Zig Ziglar and those guys, like way back in the John Maxwell, all those guys. And Zig used to always say, if you finish every week on a Friday like you were going on vacation the next week, your next week, because isn't that true when we're getting ready to go out of town or whatever, we want to finish this.
We want to tie up loose ends.
Let's go ahead and check these boxes and get finished. If we did that every week or a couple times a week, it would relieve so much stress from us, because that following week, things you might not even see coming your way, you're going to have to handle, and you've already taken care of them the week before because you're working like you're going on vacation, you know. And then when you do go on vacation, you're set up for success, you know. So you've already done that.
And every weekend can sometimes feel like a mini vacation too. So then you're not stressed over the weekend. You're
That's
not
a great
trying
point.
to.
You can truly enjoy like a Saturday
Of course,
or Sunday.
yeah.
I think it also gives you time for within our team. Every Monday we do a debrief of what were your wins from last week. So what were the wins from last week? What did we learn from last week? Because we want to get better. Clearly define what by the end of Friday, this is exactly what is expected. So they know exactly what success is, and then what resources or what help do you need to get that done. And so it's just 4 questions. It's really quick, but it gets alignment throughout the whole company. And then you can have that confidence of, am I doing my job right? Am I doing it?
Yeah.
No, this is what success looks like.
Right.
And by Friday, I've reached this goal. And we have had conversations. Was that the right goal, or was that a attainable goal? And so sometimes we need to make better goals or stronger goals here, right? And so that's a process for us.
Yeah.
I love that.
So you're obviously a highly productive, highly organized person. You have a lot going on in your personal life and your work life. You're putting on a international conference in a couple of weeks. Your sister's getting married. You're planning bachelorette parties. You're doing so much, and you do things so well, and you show up as your best self. I would love to hear from you. What is like your number one productivity hack that keeps you so organized? And it might be a few things. And maybe it's the small things that add up.
Like, do you get enough sleep? Do you exercise? Do you keep a timer? Do you know what I mean? Like all those things give us this Amber that shows
Different-
up great.
Yeah, that was a different direction. that I
Like
was
what's
gonna
your
go.
morning routine look like, or what do you do to stay like the best version of yourself?
Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna give the answer I was gonna give, and then I'll go that direction.
Okay. Which is priority, Amber?
So, I'm gonna give my answer.
My answer. That's awesome.
I stay so organized because I have a great team that helps keep me organized.
Yeah.
I myself am not the most organized person. I surround myself with people that are really good at the areas that Amber's not good at.
Yeah.
And
Great.
like this conference. So yeah, we're doing a global conference for HR executives of international companies here in a few weeks. And we have a team of people just passionate. I mean, I had a few conversations yesterday, but Amber, we can delegate more, right?
Yeah.
Like we can do this. We want more ownership. We can do even more. I love that. Okay, great. I got a whole list. Here we go. Right. And so, having a good team around you personally to keep you grounded, professionally to move forward, right? So of mentors, right? Yeah, I have to have that, that strong team and community of people around. I believe if we want to do something bigger than ourselves, then we have to include more people than ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
And you have to be self-aware of what your weaknesses actually are so that you can hire in those areas too.
Yeah,
right?
that's a humble pill to swallow, right? But if I can achieve my dreams all on my own, I'm not dreaming big enough. I want to dream bigger than that. And so, especially teaching leadership, it's like looking in a mirror all the time. If I'm saying this to someone else, it means I got to be doing it.
For sure.
So my number one as far as productivity or organization is having the right people around you.
Yeah.
If I'm surrounded by people that are adding chaos or confusion, then that's unsustainable to what we're trying to do moving forward. They're providing more clarity and productivity. As far as day-to-day morning, we all work in knowledge work. You can't do that on no sleep. You have to sleep.
Of course.
So, which can be challenging at times whenever we're working with different time zones.
Yeah.
So
Have you heard of the Soaak sleep well frequency? It's our number one listened to frequency in 190 countries.
So every country that you're traveling in.
Because everybody needs that sleep. You're right.
Foundational.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to do a shameless plug.
No, you're the shameless plug. No. Dude, and whenever I first started, I said, we're working with all these countries. I'm going to accommodate to all time zones. That is completely...
Then you're awake 24/7.
Then you're just, I'll take the meeting at 2 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
And I've really learned, we have a global team. They can take those meetings and they're competent to do that. And B, you have to set boundaries and say, this is my time to sleep. This is my time
100%.
to exercise. Running, I'm a runner. That's how but to me, there's so much emotional processing, mental processing, physical help that comes into play with that.
Do you run every day?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
About how far? A mile?
No,
2 miles?
it depends. Okay, this is my short. I did Division I track and field, and that was my job for a long time.
Yeah.
And so that becoming your job, I had burnout for running for a while.
I bet, yeah.
And so I went several years without running. I reintroduced running into my life about 8-9 years ago, about 10 years ago. And I made a commitment then, and it's just so happened with the season of my life. I was going to run until I felt fulfilled that day.
Oh, really? Wow.
And if I wanted to walk for a little bit, I would do that. But
Yeah.
I wanted to, of course, I need to do physical activity every day.
Of course.
But I ran 3 miles yesterday. I ran 8 miles the day before that.
Are you serious?
But I had a lot I had a lot to process, right? So it was nice outside.
Was that after the lunch you had with Madison?
Yeah.
Did that make you run 8 miles?
I've eaten a lot. Yeah.
Wow.
But on average, I average about 3 to 4 miles. So that's the average.
But I love that. I've never heard anybody say that I'm going to run till I'm fulfilled or walk till I'm fulfilled. Because I've done the same thing. I've went out on I work out at the gym, 3 or 4 times a week. I love lifting. I love heavy lifting, but I know I've got to get a little bit of cardio. So when I do my walks or do, HIIT training or whatever, I'll always go. And sometimes it's a mile and a half. Sometimes after 2 or 3 miles, I'm going, why am I still walking? But I'm just processing. Yeah. And I love it. And I think if people, my habit stack is, as you know, I'll take meetings on the phone meetings while I'm walking. So I've been out for 2 or 3 hours at a time before, just walking, not hard, like I've got to stay where I can talk.
Walking,
Yeah.
And
but you have that movement aspect.
But I'm moving, my blood's going, the dopamine's going, and all of that. And I love doing that. I love that habit stack to walk and have my meetings. But anyway, I didn't mean to throw us off track.
I wish that was something that we did more in the U.S. And Amber and I were talking at lunch about your time in Singapore, and whenever you're working there.
My meetings, I would have meetings with people, and I was expecting, okay, we're going to sit down and have a coffee. I had a couple of squash matches. I met with the executive and we went kayaking. Okay, great.
I mean, that's your meeting though? That's
it
the
was
meeting?
We kayaked for about an hour. Then we walked and we talked about how we were going to move forward in business, walked away with a nice deal. It was great.
I love that.
And this is in Singapore?
It was in Singapore.
Okay, shout out to Maria. You're going to have to tell me about these places in Singapore, please.
I think that's how we should start doing Soaak meetings.
Yeah, well,
Go over and play pickleball.
It's called Soaak. We've got to be in the water somehow.
Gotta be in the water. Yeah,
that is
amazing.
so cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's mentally stimulating too. Like whenever you're moving your body,
100%.
You're being
you
active.
Just feel better.
Your dopamine is higher. You're in a better mood. You're
Yep.
going to get things done. You know.
Well, and especially if you're going to do business with someone. I mean, think about how much you learn about someone playing pickleball or squash. Okay, this is how they react when they lose. This is their strategy for this. This is how they react when they're winning. This is I mean, you really do learn quite a bit. And I know that's not for everyone, right? Some people, their fitness journey needs those goals and needs that structure. For me and my journey, that's where I'm at. I want to live an active lifestyle, and I want to continue to enjoy an active lifestyle.
Yeah.
So
do you supplement, drink water, eat a lot of meat, only eat vegetables? Give me the 30,000 foot view of, or do you even worry about any of that?
At this season, with the amount of travel that I do, I eat what is local.
Okay.
The local cuisine that's there. So,
you don't look at whether it's meat or vegetable or whatever. You just do a good mix of everything.
Where's my knock on wood? I'm really grateful. I don't have food out. Yeah. So I
no
eat
food
whatever
allergies or whatever.
Yeah. So I eat whatever is local and what's served there, what people recommend. And
do you hydrate every day extra or just?
I mean,
I'm sure with running.
And being a speaker, you need to stay hydrated.
And any supplementation, multivitamin, C's, B's, A's, methylated, whatever.
Do you do a lot of supplements?
You're about to make a lot of people mad because you're just going to say, I just don't do anything. and I run 8 miles a day.
All the vitamin D.
Well, and part of that, I think, is your attitude too, because you have such
great mindset,
great attitude. You're inspirational. And I think that matters.
Yeah. I was laughing because I have a Flintstone multivitamin every day.
I love that.
That's awesome. Every day. This is my everyday Fred or Barney.
I mean, the food, I mean, I didn't grow up eating a lot of fast food. Like, we didn't have a lot of grease and stuff in our home. I mean, I think I'm really grateful that I grew up in a home that had, that valued healthy living.
Good whole foods.
So I think maybe I just don't think a lot about it because I go to the grocery store and, I mostly go to the grocery store. I don't eat out as much. And even whenever I travel, if I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks, even for a week, I go to the grocery store and I just get whatever is there and then make my meals accordingly. And so
that's so good.
I think making those decisions from the front end, we have enough business meetings where we have sit-down restaurants. So everywhere else, I try and supplement.
Balance it with that, a good whole food dinner,
just
lunch, or whatever.
That's where you get the fruits, the vegetables. I typically try and stay at a hotel that has a little kitchenette so I can make some food there. So
that is so cool. Well, I know you come from a fasted family because your father used to tell me when I was coaching, he said, Henry, no, he called me Coach, he said, I just want you to know that I'm fasting in between meals so that you guys will win. So shout out to your father. Yes. I know he's going to see this, and I remember that distinctly. and we won.
And we won. Yes.
So
I'm really grateful. Yeah. I grew up in a loving, supportive family that did model. I mean, my family growing up, my mom was up at 5, my dad was up at 7, and we would go to the gym. And so we just,
that was your lifestyle.
Yeah. Like we grew up in a very active lifestyle, and it was never forced. It was never,
Right. It's just what you did.
More of, it was
culture.
modeled. Like it was the family culture. It was the modeled behavior, and they loved it. And I think that they just transferred more of that passion, love. And so I think we were talking more of the values based leadership and the values that you instill in your home and the values you instill in your company. Of course, there are compliance. There is rules and regulations. Yes. So, but you can't make a rule and regulation for every single thing. And values do drive the decision making, especially in the gray area, right? So I can't I can't tell my team in this scenario you do this, in this scenario you do this. I can't think of every scenario. Right. I guarantee you, my parents didn't think, how is she going to work out in Singapore?
Right.
That was not. 100%.
But the core values they taught you got you through that.
Living a healthy lifestyle. So I have to find ways. So I share that value, and I want to find those ways to do that. In the same way, I can't give every situation for my team to show integrity, but they know that is a value. We connect our values with stories and images in our team. So even for integrity, we call it don't let the pole break. And we have an image of a pole vaulter. And if you have the wrong pole, right, or the wrong values, or if it's not planted well, as you rise, the pole breaks.
Wow.
It's going to snap. It can hurt. And it's those type of images that we've had conversations where
I love that.
We could do that, but that's putting some stress on the pole.
Yeah.
Well, we know what to do, right?
Right.
I can't give every scenario for when to show integrity. I can give the value of enacting integrity.
I like the term value mapping.
Value mapping, yes.
And this map is going to be the general guide. We know we're going to have to maybe make a left or a right when we're not planning on it, but if we've got a value map, we know at least where we're going and how we're supposed to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%.
I'll say one more thing. Yeah. A company I used to work for, it was more events, education, leadership, and it was more events-based, right? So we would have quite a few workshops where in the course of that, you're picking up chairs, you're moving tables, right? One of the core values of the company, paradigm shift, was to pick up chairs. And that was a value. And what it meant was anyone, that's a very, it's a simple job. Right. Anyone, CEO, anyone was expected to pick up chairs. And so you'd hear, we have the same thing in my company, but you'd hear that language of, we have a value of picking up chairs. You cleaned out the supply closet. What a good example of picking up chairs. And that just meant everyone is able to do those values. So
we have a value to Ask Christian.
To Ask Christian.
Shout out to our producer.
He covers so much, does so much, and does it well with no problems.
Such a great attitude too.
No, but I love that value proposition and value mapping, and showing those pictures of integrity and talking about it, and letting that really get deep into people's system, because you can show them those things, but you cannot prepare them for every single thing that may come along, because there's thousands that hit us every day. But if we're all guided by that value map, then our chances of success and having our expectations fulfilled and all that is going to be much higher. I love that, Amber. Wow.
That's great. Okay, good. Amber, where can everyone find you?
So I have a unique name. So Amber Vanderburg, I'm the only one on LinkedIn or Instagram
on the planet.
I'm grateful for that. So, so you can find me on LinkedIn, at Amber Vanderburg, and then you can follow my company at the Pathwayz Group. It's Pathwayz with a Z.
And we'll have this all in the show notes
we'll
too,
link it all
that people can see. Yeah. And we're, I was going to say this before we leave. We were also asked to have a representation of Soaak in your global HR event coming up on
May 26th and 27th in Berlin.
And this is, you're going to have huge companies there, employers that employ 5,000-10,000. I think you said that was about your average, and they're all HR leaders coming not to just to discuss problems, but discuss the problem and then give the answer and discuss those solutions. So I know we didn't get a chance to get way into that, but I so appreciate you working with Soaak in that, and all we can do to help you and support you in anything. We would love that. So
yes. And are you still selling tickets to that event?
Yes, we are. I'm checking my watch. Yes, we are still selling tickets. So we have about 20 more tickets available. So they are going fast. The design of this is not to sit back and listen. It is to lean forward and create and discover solutions. And
what's the prerequisite to come to the event?
So we're aiming, if you're an HR leader of a global company, so HR executives. So if you're a decision maker in your company, please come on. Most of the companies here average about 5,000 employees. We really have a good group of people coming with roundtables, with strategy sessions. So you're not just learning from a speaker on the stage, you're learning
it's the synergies
from
of the group.
Yeah,
I love that.
To create and navigate the future of work. It's changing so fast.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't do it on your own.
Yep.
What a wonderful opportunity to learn from one another.
I love that. I would highly recommend this.
Thanks, Amber.
All right. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap on today's episode. If you loved this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs it. You can find us on Instagram at Soaak Podcast for more inspiration and wellness insights. Thanks for being here. And until next time, keep tuning into what truly matters.